Hi, everybody. Welcome to Parent, and we have a very special visit that we have planned for you. First, though, I'm Kat Lee. I'm an RDI program certified consultant and a mom. And I want to welcome as my always very special guest, Lisa Palasti. Lisa is also an RDI program certified consultant for many years now, Lisa. And I really appreciate you being with us here for this really important, really special, I would say, edition of Parent to Parent. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. And I'm a mom too. So my boys are 21 and 24 now.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and open us up. What Lisa and I wanted to start with tonight was, we know that all of you who are watching here or watching later in the archives are from literally all over the world. RDI goes across the globe, which is very exciting in and of itself. And because of that, we know that we're not where you are. So how the virus is affecting you may be affecting someone else differently. It really depends on what part of the world you're in and where your country, your state, your city, your township, whatever it may be, where you are is handling things and where you are along this way. So we understand that, and we understand we also have such a diversity of parents in the autism community who also are in different places with different age children, with different co-occurring conditions, just with different circumstances. We wanted to make sure that we shared that with you so that you know we are not telling you how to feel about things. We are not telling you that we know what it's like to be you or be in your circumstance. But we do know what it's like to be parents of a child with autism. And we have walked in those shoes. And we do know that that adds a big extra level of care and concern during these times. So with that in mind, we're going to go and talk about what we think, Lisa, is really critical at this time, which is talk about a topic of crisis, because we always start with our parents and RDI talking about being in crisis mode and how you can't do much when you're in crisis mode. And we have parents who are newly diagnosed during crisis, and we have parents who've been parents knowing of the diagnosis for years who will tell us they are in crisis, right, Lisa? So this is a time when we want to think about, are we in crisis? And Lisa, Dr. Gutstein always speaks so beautifully about crisis and how when you're in that state, you can't make decisions, you can't get things done, your mind is just going and going and going. And it's really important to slow down. And I think we've both known what crisis is.
Yes, most definitely. I know I've been there myself. And at one point in time, and I always say this to everybody, that there was a point in time when I was doing, I had started to do RDI, but I was also doing ABA, and I was trying to do biomedical intervention with DAN practitioners. And I was doing all of these things at once while driving my children to different programs because I was told by all the well-intended professionals that more was better. So here I was doing all of these things. And when I was saying I was trying to do RDI, back then we didn't even have any consultants in Canada. And I was just trying to do the activities from the book and, doing our best until we actually stepped in and, traveled to meet with our consultant when we began. But at one point I said to myself, I'm doing too many things at one time and I can't do any one of them well. And that was a huge aha moment because I was just spinning out of control and I was feeling really incompetent and yeah, I was just feeling, I'd kind of come undone and I was feeling out of control and I wasn't the captain of my own ship. As parents, we really want to feel like we know what, we want to parent our children and we want to feel comfortable. It doesn't mean that we're always, that we always got this and we know exactly what to do, but we want to feel like we're in charge and that we're capable. And so, yeah, if we're doing too many things and not even slowing down to assess what's working and what's not, then we've got a big problem.
We do. And like Dr. Gutstein says, our minds can be racing and we can be trying to do too many things at one time. And in this case, where we all are in some place at this time, I think it's easy for the mind to get going, which is just as challenging as the body getting going, you know, where you've got so many thoughts going through your brain. And I do love the way one of my families who's been in RDI sometime put it. They told me today, I told them I was going to take it from them and use it, but that this is an amazing opportunity. That's what they said. It spoke to me that it's an amazing opportunity for an RDI slowdown, which is how they have chosen to take this time. And I thought that was a really good way to try your best to look at it as an amazing opportunity. And again, we say, as we said from the outset, we are not belittling anybody's situation by saying that. And we know how challenging it is for ourselves. But
well, you said that very well. So I'm glad that you said that, because again, it's no judgment. Everybody's in the place where they're in, and it's only my wish, and I'm sure it's only your wish as well, that people would get to the point in their lives where they would be able to have, you know, similar kind of feelings around their role in raising their child. And not everybody's there yet, and this difficult times for sure, even for the parent that said that to you today. But to be able to reflect on what is possible right now, and finding the silver lining in that, and that this is a wonderful time to really you know, embrace RDI.
And I wanted to remind everybody that you as parents are uniquely gifted to guide your children. And we even talk to our parents about, you should question anybody who would doubt that about you, because you are. And it's one of the beautiful things about RDI, that it prepares us. And maybe I didn't know that how much until now. It prepares us so much for this. None of us were preparing for this kind of thing. I don't think in our minds was present, but it does, because we learn how to guide our children. And so we really want to share that to you from the heart. And this idea of thinking of it as an RDI slowdown may be helpful to you. We certainly hope that it is, very much.
For sure.
So, and I think, you know, crisis, don't you, Lisa? It's different for different people. Even there's levels of it, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. And I think that we also have the ability to be mindful of what that is, even in our own lives. So for instance, myself, I was supposed to actually travel to see a client down in the US last week. And so the week prior, when, you know, before self-isolation became a thing in North America, but there, I guess there was maybe talk of it, but I started really reviewing the news intensely, because I had to make this big decision. Am I going to go, or am I not going? And there was, you know, there was a lot of other things besides seeing the client. I was going to see my mom. I was going to help her with the surgery that she was having. I mean, there was a lot of things going on. And do I go or I don't go? Anyway, fast forward to, 10 days later, I realized that I was still looking at the news that intently. And I realized, as I started to just kind of slow down more, that really wasn't serving me. It was causing me to just feel this really negative, like doomsday toxicity that was just it was actually affecting my quality of life. And even though I'm really worried, it doesn't mean that I can't embrace the fact that my family still, we're more centered. I mean, we're more together right now. I can't say we're super centered or grounded. We're not yet, but we are really making the best of the time that we have together, and enjoying our time, and enjoying walks together. And I think you shared a story with me earlier about movie night, and, you know, but I don't want to get off topic too much, but I think that, yes, crisis is different for everybody, and it's even different for ourselves on a day-to-day. So we have to be really aware of it, and be present, and take the initiative to make some little adjustments if we need to. So what I decided to do was I just went off social media for the last 48 hours, and it really helped. It doesn't mean I will forever, but my life's not really going to change that dramatically while I'm in self-isolation, right?
True.
Yeah. And I told my husband, I said, like, let me know if there's anything I need to know. But otherwise, like, you know, I'm a lot better.
Well, that brings me to what I think is going to be a really important talk, which is about chaos.
Okay, there you go.
And the reason I wanted to talk about this was because one of the terms I've loved in RDI, and it's actually said a number of different ways over the years, but I still love this term of productive uncertainty. And that is, in a nutshell, as we guide our children, we give opportunities of the uncertainty presented to our children, and it allows for problem solving, resilience, flexible thinking, inferring. I could go on and on. It gives opportunity for those moments. But one of the concepts that I have taught my parents is that there is unproductive uncertainty, and that can equal chaos. And we actually talk quite a bit about that, because a lot of times they won't recognize that there's too much uncertainty going on and things get really kind of out of control with their children. And it's because it can create chaos in life. And that's just a principle of life. If our life gets too uncertain, it starts to feel very chaotic, and chaotic is not generally thought of as a good thing. So I wanted to share that with you, because I think we have to look at a time like this as, is this unproductive uncertainty, and is it creating chaos in my life? And if that's the case, which it would certainly be more than reasonable if it feels like it is, or if it is, then we want to think about things that we can do that would reduce that would help us with that. So just some thoughts for us to take with us on avoiding chaos. This is one of my favorite things to say to you at this time, which is sometimes the same is good. Sometimes routine can be good. And in fact, this family that I spoke with today also said they were going to learn to be flexible about being static, because one of our principles in RDI has to do with the static brain versus the dynamic brain. So the static brain is routine, management, 2 + 2 = 4, just things that don't change, scheduling, those kind of things. We look at dynamic thinking, but one of the really important principles that sometimes we can forget is that static is actually a brace for our lives. Having some static things, what time we get up in the morning to be sure that we get off to work on time. Those are things that are a frame around our dynamic life that make it possible. So when we're feeling chaos, static can actually be really important. Having a routine, when your schedule's changed, setting a new routine can be very important. Practicing same but different. So there may be things you can't do now, but things that you can do differently, but they're the same. So for example, my son, who's 27, and his dad, they kind of have a thing where they go to the movies on Sunday night together. They go to a dine-in. They go to see all the latest movies coming out. I mean, they've been doing this a long time as their dad and son. It's wonderful. I love their relationship. They don't have to do it, and if you're on vacation, whatever, they're not missing it particularly, but generally they do it when they're able to. Well, all of our movie theaters are closed indefinitely. So they were fine. I mean, I don't know if they would have just gone and done their own thing, but I said, why don't we buy one of the new movies that's coming out early, and you guys will order a pizza, and you guys enjoy a movie together. And so, and that is what they did. And they ended up not being on their phones, making that decision and turning the light out. It was hilarious. So, and I thought they'd probably get up and get distracted by the house and go do something, but they didn't. So that was a nice little example of same but different, Lisa, where, yeah. And they had such a great time. And, you know, as the wife and the mom, I thought it was kind of amusing actually that they, yeah. that they enjoyed it so much. And that might not be something for everybody, but we're also busy here, and him being at 27 and everything, that we don't watch that much TV together at night at this point. So that was really good. And I actually ended up thinking that was just really healthy, period. To just,
Right. It really was. It
so,
really was. So that didn't have to be a loss of some kind of tradition, that you could
right,
just have the same
right.
tradition, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
yeah, I loved it. I love that story.
So the other thing is, and Dr. Gutstein has talked about this for a long time. And you know, half the time when we parents hear it, we might want to burst into laughter because we're so busy. But just being can be important. And he has talked a lot about just being with your child, not having any demand on yourself or on your child, just hanging out in whatever, hammocks, chairs, hot tub, whatever you have, just being, with not even necessarily talking, but just being together. Well, I think this could be an opportunity for just being, Lisa, because um, you know, a lot of times for when I talk to parents about this, they almost laugh, like I said, because when am I going to just be? I've got to be doing. So that's something to think about. And then I think this can be really important. There may be things that you've meant to do with your child, but you've just never had the time. So this is a time when you could make a list, not necessarily a super long list, but a list of things you meant to do, wanted to do very much, but with schools and therapies and all kinds of things, you've just never been able to do it. So this could be that time for that RDI slowdown where you can do that.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
final two things for my avoiding chaos list are avoid doing things that you don't have to do. Sometimes we can create work for ourselves that we don't have to do. And in RDI, we talk about this a lot with parents who are starting out anyway. But at times like this, for reasons I don't necessarily understand, Lisa, you know, we can do that. We can start creating work for ourselves that we actually don't have to do. And so I think this is a good time to make sure we don't do that. And then finally, and this is for our parents, you know, try to do things that you need to do for you. You may have to modify those. Instead of going out to a coffee shop, you may have to have coffee in your backyard or your patio or your balcony, whatever it may be, but try to do those things. You may not be able to exercise at a gym. I have quite a few people I know who that's a loss for them. That's just a really good static habit they have to make sure they exercise. But
Hmm.
try to do those things to take care of you. You take care of you, you take care of your children. And that's
Hmm.
such an important principle.
It's really important because we need to be regulated ourselves if we can expect our children to be regulated. We need to present, you know, I've always said that our kids, I have two kids with special needs, and when they were really young, especially, they were barometers for my emotional states. And so I learned that very early on, and I was mindful of it, and I would, try to practice just being pretty, calm. Even sometimes it felt superficial because it wasn't necessarily going on the outside, but eventually it's like fake it till you make it kind of thing. But as long as I was mindful about it and just recognized it and tried to slow down, I think that that's a really important point, to take care of ourselves, because we have to put our own oxygen masks on first. And
Mhm.
so that's good advice for families to, this list is lovely. I love it. And I makes me think about Dr. Gutstein. He says, the idea of just being together, because we are human beings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we should. And I can also relate to what you said about feeling like maybe we have to do all of these things, because I think that I'm probably not the only one that thought, okay, self-isolation, woohoo, I can clean out my laundry room, or whatever. And I initially I thought I was going to get a lot of those kinds of things done, and it's not happening. And that's okay. Because I also want to make sure that I'm taking time to take care of myself, because, for instance, my son is self-isolating while at home, instead of, he's actually taking a test right now. And they have him shining his webcam down on his work. I guess, to make sure that he's not cheating throughout it. And then there's like some kind of facial recognition. I don't know what it is to make sure that he's actually who he is taking the test. I don't understand, but it's kind of amazing that they've got this technology. But he's been at it all day. I've been at it all day. And I said, hey, buddy, let's go for a walk. So we did. And, you know, some of our best moments was when we have those really long leashes, and other people did too. So our dogs didn't have to socially distance, but we did. But they had to say hi.
Oh, that's awesome. What an awesome story. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we all, you know, everybody kind of got a chuckle out of it. Like, well, let's let the dogs close, but you stay away. Yeah. So anyway, so I like that. And I also thought too, to add to the list though, you had said the things that you would like to do, you know, maybe with your child that you've never done. And it made me think about how this could be a chance to kind of reset in a way, and that life is just, it's so busy and chaotic itself. Sometimes I've seen a real shift over the last almost 2 decades. Well, not quite, but you know, I was going to say almost 2 decades I've been doing RDI. I'm shy a few years there, but still, nonetheless, I've seen a real difference in the, you know, with families' abilities to really invest the time to do RDI. And I don't fault the families at all. I fault the fact that the you know, all of the mass amounts of information that are coming at us like constantly, and you know, people expect responses right away, whereas before, you know, in the olden days, before we had email even, you know, sorry, you have to wait for the letter to come in the mail or for the phone call that might happen, you know, 3 days from now, because I had to wait for the letter to get to me before I could respond to you. You know, everything just took much longer, and it's just not the norm anymore. So my hope was it was just maybe just a reset, and to just be mindful of that, and be mindful of your child, and is your child really benefiting from keeping the same routines? One of my clients told me yesterday that she was keeping to the same routine with respect to they were getting up at the same time. They were going to bed at the same times, as though they were still all going to work or school, and trying to stay, you know, in the same time frames in terms of their meals. And I thought that that was really smart, because it's not going to throw people's, you know, circadian rhythms off, which can, you know, I don't know, that whole time change even did a number on me, because that is another example, I guess, of throwing us out of sync, if you will. So, but with that said, with this opportunity to slow down, I also thought it might be a nice time to reestablish maybe some traditions, which could be simple, like sitting down and eating together as a meal. And also bedtime. Bedtime can be a wonderful connecting opportunity. And I think sometimes everybody's just moving so fast. It's just, let's get the kids to bed and let's get them to sleep. So, you know, whatever, I can get the laundry done, or, you know, whatever it is. But that bedtime is just such a nice time to really focus on the connections.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you said about having dinner together. It's almost a lot lost art. Everybody's so busy, and people aren't home at the same time. And what a nice opportunity that you reminded us of. Breakfast together, where you're actually sitting down. You reminded me of that in my childhood, and that's something that has hurried up quite a bit. So I like what you said about routine, and I think that is such wise advice. I was thinking about what you said about, even to the point that you pick a general time that's similar, and keep that routine. I think that that's really good, a good, beautiful example, and maybe an annoying one if you hope to sleep late, right? But a good one for that routine scaffold I was talking about. It keeps a sense of a normal, and that can be really important for children, I think, to have some kind of touchstones, that type of, you know, something that they can touch that is their normal, that they know they can consistently count on. I think in times like this, there's a lot of things they may have been doing that they can't count on now. And whatever things that you can do that they can count on, and this to me is all children, it's good to try to produce those while they're at home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important, or it should be acknowledged, that this is a time of need and that some people may need more support. And I've seen a real opening of hearts and support to people. You know, if you need anything. My mom, after her surgery, I wasn't able to be there, and you know, my poor mom, she ran out of toilet paper. And I'm not making this up. She did, but her neighbor came over and brought her some toilet paper. I don't know how she caught wind of the fact that she'd run out of toilet paper, but there she was, and my mom is actually new to the community that she's moved, that she was living in down in Florida. And so it really warmed my heart, and hers too. So with that said, though, I feel that there are an awful lot of parents that are just overwhelmed because they have their children at home with them all day long and they're not quite sure what to do and how can I make the best of the situation. And as an RDI consultant who has worked at a distance and worked virtually with clients for well over a decade now, it is really effective. So if you're here tonight as a parent, or if you're listening later on in the archives, and you're in that position, like, don't hesitate to reach out to your consultant, because they can be there, to help support you in this time.
It's true, and RDI consultants are doing it, and SLPs are doing it. Lots of professionals are going to serve parents online. So, and it's a wonderful thing we have. I know I, like you, I see most of my clients virtually a lot of the time, and it's a really great tool. So we want to encourage you that you're just not alone, and you don't have to be, because of this right here. It's a real window to the world. It's a window to you. It's a window to your consultant. It's a wonderful technology that Lisa and I've been using for a while, but I'm sure I've never appreciated it as much as I appreciate it now. And likewise, I'm so glad that we could have this visit. And as we said in the beginning, we don't know exactly what you're going through, but you're not alone. There are many parents going through this, and I'm hoping that I can look at it as an amazing opportunity. The way my family told me today, they taught me a lesson about how to think about it. And I don't say all opportunities are easy. I think we'll all agree this is really hard in one way or another for us. But we're here for you, and we know that you're the best guides for your babies. And as we always say, you should doubt anyone who tells you differently. Okay. Would anybody like to ask a question or share anything? If anybody has any thoughts they want to share, you're more than welcome to do so before we go. But we won't make you. No pressure.
Yeah, I think that one step ahead approach that we really embody in RDI is so critical right now, to not put more pressure on ourselves to be or do more than what we're capable of, but to continue to think about how we can just put one step, to just make that one step forward. So if we're just, riddled with anxiety and stress, then what's that one baby step that you can do that might help to alleviate that?